Hey, it's Doug from The Nice Guys. Now, we are on vacation this week, but we didn't want to leave you empty-handed. So here's a classic rewind episode of The Nice Guys on Business podcast. Get set. Here we go.
Here's what you can look forward to on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
Project confidence, even though you have some uncertainty. Of course you do. But if in the end your instincts tell you like this is a thing and it's for real and I'm not just kidding myself, even despite moments of doubt, then just don't apologize and go and just keep going and just keep swimming. You know, you don't know how long it's going to take. So be prepared to swim for as long as it takes. And that's one of the problems I think in the current situation is too many entrepreneurs are focused on an exit. And they used to teach that, and they still do to some degree. You know, the funders want you to have some kind of exit. I don't believe in that. The exits will find you anyway. If you're killing it, people are going to want in, they're going to, they're going to want to take a piece of it. Instead, just focus on building something great.
Get it straight, Buster. I'm not here to say please. I'm here to tell you what to do. And if self-preservation is an instinct you possess, you better do it and do it quick. I'm here to help. If my help's not appreciated, then lots of luck, gentlemen. If I'm curt with you, it's because time is a factor. I think fast, I talk fast. I need you guys to act fast if you want to get out of this. So, pretty please, with sugar on top. Listen to the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, Nice Guy community, welcome back. We're going to have a shout out specifically to Maria. Maria just left a review of the show on Thursday. Thank you for the 5-star review. The Nice Guys on Business has quickly become the standout favorite of mine. She says, I'm consistently impressed with the engaging conversations, insightful contact, and actionable ideas. I truly learn something new every time I tune in. Now, I keep thinking, she can't possibly be listening to my show. And then I think, you know what? It's not me. It's great guests like today's guest that we actually have on the show. So let me get to today's guest. It's what an awesome get. You know, I talk all the time about some of these VIP guests that I've had a chance to land on the show. And again, I have no freaking clue why some people say yes, but I had no absolutely clue, no idea at all when I got a call, or actually it was an email message from Madeline, the PR agent that runs an account for today's guest. What an awesome guest. His name is Shawn D. Nelson. He's the CEO of LoveSac, a juggernaut U.S. furniture-based furniture company with 270 plus retail stores. Shawn's journey began handcrafting sacks in 1998, and it has been an incredible ride. In 2005, Shawn achieved a remarkable milestone by winning a $1 million investment from, this is cool, like he hands you a check for $1 million.
Yeah. Happened.
Richard Branson hands him a check for $1 million. He was on the Rebel Billionaire, serving a stint briefly as president of Virgin Worldwide. That's kind of cool on its own. With over 50 patents and a strong focus on sustainability, Shawn's LoveSac brand has revolutionized furniture, and he recently authored the book called Let Me Save You 25 Years, which we're here to talk about today. Get an overload on Shawn's. If you want to get an overload on Shawn's podcast, you can just tune in. It's called also Let Me Save You 25 Years. Shawn, I'm excited to have you here. Your most recent episode is with this guy named London, talking about make your own luck. I mean, so many great things. I'm excited to chat with you today. Welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Great to be here.
Hey, I want to start with that. Make your own luck. So do you really feel like you get lucky in business, or do you have to make your own luck?
Both. I mean, in the book, I talk about this. My testimony, as it were, of luck, it came from this experience with Richard Branson. We were laying on the roof of Necker Island. I having just won $1 million on Fox Network, national TV, primetime. This is way back in 2005. And we were talking about, space and stars and religion. And he asked me about mine. And and he said to me, I believe we make our own luck. And at the time, I kind of felt that was kind of dismissive. I'm a religious person. I thought, like, luck, what about God? What about faith? What about blessing? And after having tons of bad luck, just the kind of things that happen to you as an entrepreneur that you think, unless God hates me, like the confluence of like bad timing, bad market outcome, bad decision making on someone else's part. Like, how could it be anything but bad luck? Therefore, there must be good luck. And of course, as a guy who literally won $1 million on TV, how can you deny luck? So where I come from, finally, is this place where, look, the universe was set in motion, asteroids collide, we collide off each other, and there's plenty of luck out there to be had, but you have to be out there making it. If you're not out there doing the networking, meeting people, making the connections, reading the books, taking in the information, the confluence of information, good ideas, someone's comment, a meeting, a happenstance, a connection, and pow, luck finds you. And by the way, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it floating around, but that's how we make it. And so I've got a whole chapter of that in the book. And the podcast was really fun with London Lazarson, who's blown up on TikTok. You talk about luck, and these people become millionaires through social media. But it looks easy, but I'll tell you what, there are 1,000 episodes or 1,000 posts, et cetera, that it takes to have one go viral. And there's a lot of luck making to get lucky.
I talk about it and I think about a lot the pivotal moments, as Malcolm Gladwell will call it, the tipping point, and maybe it's called finding your own luck. There's a bunch of different ways to probably refer to the same thing, but I think about, I was maybe 2 years into the Nice Guys on Business podcast. I had written a book called Nice Guys Finish First. I had just done a career reinvention after spending 30 years as a bar mitzvah DJ. I mean, it's one of those things that you can't write this story to be any better than it was, at least for me in my journey. This one guy in my audience reaches out to me. His name is Lou, and I'm still really good friends with Lou. And Lou said, "Hey, Doug, I appreciate you bringing all this great content, but I don't want to talk about the content. I want you to share with me how to produce and launch a podcast. Will you do it?" And I said, "Lou, I've never done that before. I'm happy to try. I don't know how to charge you for it. I don't know anything about it." And we came up with just this plan to launch a podcast for X amount of dollars that we charge. I think it was $600 a month for 5 months. He was going to pay us $3,000 or pay me $3,000 to show him how to do it. And I guess that was considered luck. You have to look for the opportunity. If you continually put that word opportunity in your brain, I think you're starting from a good point. And I think about your journey, and I don't know every nuance of your journey, but there are some pivotal moments like that moment you either got an email or a phone call or a letter from Limited 2 saying, "I want to place an order for 12,000 of these LoveSacs." Was that one of those times for you?
Yeah, but let's unpack that for a second. So the story is, this was my side hustle through college, making giant beanbags. People liked them. I was trying to get out of it. I had a real job waiting for me. This thing only sucked my money. The van breaks, the equipment breaks. Like, businesses just suck money for years and years, usually. And I did. So enough people told me, "No, you can't close LoveSac. I love my LoveSac." I decided to give it one last shot.
Yeah.
Credit carded my way to a trade show in Chicago, and got no orders, and was now 15, 20 grand in debt on my credit cards, graduating from college, but at least I had tried. And then 2 weeks later, the phone rings, and someone who had seen us at the show and places this order for 12,000 sacks, not knowing it's me and a buddy and like a wood chipper. And so once again, you could call it lucky. That phone call would not have come had I not taken the risk and blown 15, 20 grand on a credit card to go to this trade show on a wing and a prayer. And then, by the way, there's 20 years of it after that. The book's called Let Me Save You 25 Years. It's a very long story that I tried to write very succinctly. And therefore, the podcast is where I go deeper into these concepts. But once again, it took some doing to make that luck happen. And that's a pattern. That's a pattern that's undeniable throughout my story. And of course, throughout anyone's story who's made big things happen.
Well, talk to the entrepreneur that's in our audience, the man or the woman that's in there that has done exactly what you have done to a degree for their business. They've taken out that credit card, and we're not encouraging people to go into debt because they're listening to this message. So, and I'm sure Shawn is not encouraging that either. He's just saying right place, right time, good opportunity. He found his own luck. But talk to the person that's in our community that has done that $15,000 expense on their credit card. It hasn't resulted in that. When do you know it's time to throw in the towel, and when do you know it's time to dig your heels in and stay for the long run?
I've been asked similar questions a lot lately, and this is my only good response so far. You are the CEO of your own life, and your life is happening to you right now in real time. And you are faced with decisions, big and small. Am I spending enough time with my kids? What about this? What about traveling versus staying? What about doing this versus not doing that? And those decisions are hard, and there's no right answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what CEOs get paid for, to make hard decisions. And so, unfortunately, one of the best resources I have for making hard decisions, and by the way, the older I get, the more I rely on this, is just your intuition and instinct. And I know that is not something that I can easily put in a bottle for you. But one, if you don't have good intuition or instincts, or you feel like there's a blank spot there, then perhaps forging out on your own into the open waters is not where you should be. Right. And by the way, not everyone should be an entrepreneur. Everyone wants to be because it's celebrated. It's overhyped in our culture. And by the way, it looks blingy and lots of money and blah, blah, blah. There's lots of ways to make a buck, and there's lots of ways to have a great life. And by the way, if everyone was an entrepreneur, I'd have no one helping me build LoveSac, right?
With you, right.
And so my advice is, first, ask yourself the hard question: do I have what it takes? Can I live in uncertainty? That's a topic I explore deeply on my podcast in the book, Living in Uncertainty. And if I don't have instincts, or I feel like a blank spot there, then maybe you don't. And if you do, then you know the answer. You may not like the answer, because the answer may be keep going. As painful as it is. You know how many times I wanted to quit LoveSac? I'm not joking. I talk about it in the book. Like 100, like 1,000, I don't even know. And legitimately contemplated, really thought it through. And sadly, when I really asked myself, I had this nagging feeling like I should just keep going. And it was painful because, man, it was costing me money. It was hurting my soul. I had all these other opportunities. And now, of course, as a public company, traded on NASDAQ, pushing toward $1 billion in sales, like, how could I deny? Those were the right decisions. But I had no visibility. It was pure instinct.
All right, let's talk about from the category of instinct, because you ended with the perfect word for me to lead into this next question. Talk to my community about the call that you got from your first prospective franchise owner, because I love when you share the story on your podcast, because it's the epitome of building the plane as you are flying it, and that it seems to be how you have done this journey. And fortunately, I feel like while I'm nowhere near maybe I have the experience that you have with building the plane as you're flying it. I just haven't found the results quite where you have taken it to. We're not a public company. We have a really good production company, but from the perspective of you doing it and just knowing it's the right place, right time, and just staying in the game long enough. Talk about that first call you got from your first prospective franchise owner.
Yeah. So the book and the podcast wrap themselves around these 25 Shawnisms, these little lessons I've learned along the way, the hard way, in hopes to maybe, save you the trouble or piece of it. Anyway, the Shawnism that goes along with what you're describing is be what you will be, not what you are. And I was working in the first LoveSac store myself, open to close. We couldn't afford employees, we thought at the time. We were just terrified of the lease we had signed, the expense it took to get that store open. And the only reason we even opened a store is because all the furniture stores told us we were idiots and they didn't want to carry our product. And so there we were in a mall, on a mall lease, hoping to sell stuff. And sure enough, from day one, man, stuff just started blowing up, and it worked. Holy crap. Like, who knew a giant beanbag store in a mall even could work? And this guy walks in 10 days after opening and says, "Oh, this is so cool." And grooving in the music. We had the music going and the big screen TV playing, sax on the floor, people flopping down, having fun. Who do I talk to about a franchise? And I saw my cousin give him my business card. Me and my cousin are working in the store. And he gave him my card and said, "Hey, call this guy. He's the head." So I run outside on the bridge at the Gateway Mall in Salt Lake City, look down, answer my cell phone. LoveSac Corporation. And he says, "I want a franchise." I said, what store are you in? He says, "Oh, I'm in your Salt Lake store." I said, "Oh, that's a good one." And a month later, we were selling.
It's the only one, by the way. It's the only one.
The company to get going. And my point being, when I answered that phone, same thing as when I answered it when the Limited called. I was not a college kid waiting tables to get my way through school doing this side hustle. I was the owner of the biggest and best not beanbag company in the world. And by the way, none of that is not true. It just happened to be a really small, I was the only not beanbag company in the world, but it was all true. And I had chosen to behave and answer the phone like, and speak like that, what I would be, not necessarily what I was, a starving college student. And that's a choice. Some say fake it till you make it, that sort of thing, but it's not just fake. If you put on those clothes mentally, if you behave, speak, act, dress that way, who's to say you are not that thing? And it's served me well, and it's gotten me this far.
It's funny. It reminds me of the skate to where the puck is going, not to where the puck is, because if you play to where it's going, and your brain puts you in a position of, hey, look, this is a franchise opportunity. Did you know that you were going to get that call? Of course not. He never knew it. He never expected to get that call. But man, God doesn't place it in your hands at a time when you don't expect it. When you expect it, it's coming, and it was coming to you. Law of attraction, 100% was coming to you. And I love that story, and I love that you share it with a lot of genuine. I didn't know what the F I was doing, but I knew that this is where I wanted to be. And even though I didn't have all the tools at my disposal, I still was able to make it happen. Can you talk about that for a second? Yeah.
Where I wanted to be at that time was, like I said, CEO of the biggest not beanbag company in the world. And I behaved that way. As we've grown and evolved, I mean, my vision for my future has changed radically and continues to expand and extend. And in fact, on the episode I got to do with Urban Meyer on the pod a few weeks back, it was fun. We had this exchange. He was like kind of jealous because when he would win a national championship, okay, that was it. And then it was kind of like, okay, we'll try and do it again next year. And that was really hard. And in business, we get to just keep moving the goalposts. Mm-hmm. Okay, we got that. Let's now be the best couch company. Okay, we got that. Let's now take it to 1 billion or 2 or 10. Okay, we got that. Now and so what a cool sport we find ourselves in, where we can just continually project a future after we arrive at our original destination. And it's magical.
At what point, I guess from my own perspective, because I'm that entrepreneur that's looking to expand to that next level, take a mid 6-figure company, take it to 7 figures. 7 figures, I hear it's hard once you get to 7 figures, and then it's hard to get to 10 figures or 9 figures or 8 figures beyond the 7. It's like, okay, take me, at what point did you realize that I'm going to go from having this bootstrap company, and maybe it was the Richard Branson win, maybe it was the $1 million in your hand, maybe it was some other catalyst moment. At what moment did you realize I can't do this on my own monetarily? I need the assistance of some capital. How did you know that?
Well, you know it when you don't have any money.
That's a good answer.
And I never did. I never had any money, man. We kind of cash flowed in the beginning off of our, at one sale at a time. But particularly product businesses, they just eat cash.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. And if you're in one, then you know. And so unless you're like independently wealthy or you're just radically successful kind of right out of the gate, you're going to need money. And that could come in a lot of forms. It could come as a loan, friendly loan, just temporary money. In my case, I needed serious investment, and it became apparent. And by the way, almost every time I ever got money from the outside in any form, I wish I had asked for twice as much. Mm-hmm. So I talk about this transparently in the book. Ask for more than you think you need. Don't be apologetic. You have the opportunity for them. Don't forget, unless you don't believe in what you're doing, you don't need to be a beggar. You have the opportunity that is going to make them rich. Now, is there a chance it will fail? Of course. Do you need to walk around advertising that? No, because anyone who's qualified to invest in you already knows this. This isn't like a mystery to them. In fact, they're probably more skeptical than so it's like you have to project confidence, even though you have some uncertainty. Of course you do. But if in the end, your instincts tell you like, this is a thing and it's for real, and I'm not just kidding myself, even despite moments of doubt, then just don't apologize and go and just keep going and just keep swimming. You know, you don't know how long it's going to take. So be prepared to swim for as long as it takes. And that's one of the problems, I think, in the current situation is too many entrepreneurs are focused on an exit. And they used to teach that, and they still do to some degree. You know, the funders want you to have some kind of exit. I don't believe in that. The exits will find you anyway. If you're killing it, people are going to want in. They're going to, you know, they're going to want to take a piece of it. Instead, just focus on building something great.
Shawn's book is called Let Me Save You 25 Years. And I don't want to give away all of the content in the book because I know it's a short book. It's a real easy read. It's I believe is it 25 lessons? Is that what you have in the book? 25 lessons from 25 years, pretty much?
Yeah, the subtitle is Mistakes, Miracles, and Lessons from the LoveSac Story. And it's 25 tiny chapters. You can read like 60 minutes paired with 25 succinct lessons. I tried to boil it down. Look, I read all the business books. I wanted to make something different. It's loaded with photographs. It's almost like a coffee table book. They're gritty because this is before I had a mobile phone in some cases. And it's just the real deal. Try to be really honest and try to take the same approach on the podcast with the same name.
One of the Shawnisms that you get into in the book, and I know you talk about it on the podcast as well, because now I am a subscriber or a follower, whatever you call it, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So I have another in my lineup. Thank you very much. One of the Shawnisms that you talk about is the wisdom of working in the seams and cracks. And it's a concept that newbies to a side hustle may not already know about, but could you maybe just share just a little thumbnail sketch of what working in the seams and cracks means?
Look, I'm dropping my kids off somewhere to help my wife cover it. And I've got my laptop and I'm waiting outside and I'm connected to the internet and I'm doing what it takes. And I'm emailing, recording, generating content, writing, whatever it takes in every seam and crack that I can squeeze in. Because in real life, I've found that's the only way to get it all done. It's impossible. I'm both, putting up with one of my wife's favorite TV shows in bed at night while I'm doing emails if necessary, but I'm with her. Yeah. At least I'm somewhat present, because it's demanding to build something, especially as a side hustle. If that's what you got to do in the beginning. I did it for 3 years. I only paid my way through school as a waiter. LoveSac didn't make me one dime. And so you got to work in every seam and crack. And by the way, you got to play in every seam and crack, or you will become a dull boy, so to speak, and nobody will like you. And that doesn't work either.
Strick and I, he's my partner. We talk all the time about the several years that we worked where our staff was getting paid and we weren't. We were both working aside. He works a full-time job or was working a full-time job, and I was working a side hustle as this bar mitzvah MC with a fading career in that after 30 years of doing it. And I'm like, who's going to want a 47-year-old guy doing the cha-cha slide much longer? I'm like, I got to figure out what's my exit strategy for this. And podcasting just happened to come into it. So I always talk about that early part of just staying in the game long enough. We didn't have our Shawnisms, but some of it was, look, we just got to beg, borrow, and steal the time in which we can build our business. And until the business is big enough to sustain us, then we can't do anything other than that. So I've very much enjoyed that. You talk in your podcast also, again, a lot about you're married, monogamous dad from Utah watching Netflix in your LoveSac. You talk about that a lot of times. So I'm curious how that has helped shape you, because I think that balance, while there's one side of you as the entrepreneur that does fill in all the cracks and seams and all seams and cracks, and then there's the other side of you that creates the balance and being that husband, family guy, religious guy, someone that really is in tune with his personal life as well. So can you just talk about that for a second as an entrepreneur? Yeah.
Look, let's start with the baseline. One of the Shawnisms, everything else is dust. And what I'm referring to is, other than my wife and 4 kids, all the cars that have now come, all the wealth, all the experience, even the company is dust compared to that. So if you have to know where your priorities lie, and they're different for everyone. Not everyone's married, not everyone's in a relationship, not everyone has, whatever it is that means the most to you fundamentally, don't get that confused. And then you'll say, well, then what am I supposed to stay home and just spend, look, it's not easy, and you can do it. You can find a way to man was meant to work, in my opinion. And when I say man, mankind, men, women, adults were meant to work. There's nothing wrong with that. And kids do well to see their parents working. It's, for instance, in my case, I think. But if either one gets totally out of whack, then something gives. And I'll tell you what, as much as I even love my company and as CEO of a public company, it's like blasphemy to say it, but my family matters more. I'll say it. Now, I'm really proud of LoveSac, and I am dedicated, man. I work hard and I expect people that work with me to work hard. And therefore, I respect their personal time and respect their vacation time. And I respect that, everyone goes through ups and downs. So I can't tell you how to do that other than to say, you got to make your own decisions and own them. And that's, again, why they pay you the big bucks. You're the CEO of your own life. CEO decisions are hard. So just embrace it. These decisions are hard, and you're going to make different ones every day. And somehow, if you don't lie to yourself, you can make good enough decisions to keep it all going.
Nice. Well, save my community 25 years in one sentence. I know it's going to be hard to encapsulate and boil down your book into one sentence, but I see a bunch of them behind you on the shelf, and I keep thinking, man, oh man, I know you can do it. So can you share your wisdom in one sentence that'll help save my community 25 years?
Oh man, that's tough. I'll just pick my last Shawnism: maintain top ambition with infinite patience. And that's something that's only come after 25 years in. I become more patient as a very impatient ADHD classic entrepreneur profile. It's like, hey, it took me so long to get here. I would have never guessed that in the beginning. Why not go another 25? And with that attitude, I can do anything. So maintain your top ambitions, pair it with infinite patience, and you will wake up someday and have gotten pretty far, just like you have. And that, I think, has been your experience. And congratulations on this podcast for you've kept swimming.
We were just too stupid to stop.
Yeah.
So I look at it, just be stupid enough not to give up.
Good for you.
It's so true. You have underneath and Nice Guy Community. You can't see all of the books that Shawn has behind him because this is an audio podcast, of course. But Shawn has a top shelf on his book stand behind him that has all of his books and manuals. And right below that is a ton of other people's books. Is there a favorite in that pile that you could pick? I know it's hard because I got a ton of those too. But what's one of your faves?
Oh man, that is a really tough one. I'll give you just a few to pick from, because books have been my mentor. People say get a mentor. I would support the same, but can't go wrong with Good to Great from Jim Collins, The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, Insight by Tasha Eurich on self-awareness. I mean, that's, to me, the foundation. Honestly, self-awareness is the foundation for like all success. Primal Leadership, Daniel Goleman, all these great books, or audiobooks, podcasts, fill the seams and cracks left with, hey, listen, if you're listening to this and not some true crime podcast, nothing wrong with some entertainment, but you're already ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. This wasn't available to me when I was 21 and just eking by. Like, what gold? It's all free. What the heck? It's amazing.
Well, I feel the same thing when I get a guest that has the wisdom and experience and results that you have. I get a guy that could charge $100,000 to do a keynote speech. I get him free for 30 minutes to sit in my guest seat and I can ask any question that I want. I almost feel as though it's an unfair advantage for me to have that. But you know what? I put in my 10,000 hours into this podcast. I put in my almost, 10 years, 9+ years of podcasting. Wow. And nearly 1,500 episodes. And I get excited when I see a guy like you that's just starting a podcast that, has 13 or 14 episodes. And I'm thinking, Shawn, just keep going, man. You're going to strike gold. And I'm like, who the fuck am I to tell him he's going to strike gold? He's like, he's already struck gold. I mean,
I'll keep going. I mean, I will. And I think like there's something in that. And that's the thing is like, I'm just another newbie. I'm starting out like anyone listening, in that realm. And now I've got to just put in my 10,000 hours and look, that's what I'm saying, Doug. Like I respect you for it. And I think I respect anybody, because that in the end, it will work. That's the crazy thing. You can pretty much make anything work. You just got to have the grit to do it.
Who would be your get? Who would be on your show? I mean, who would say no to being in your guest seat? There's got to be some people that are just easy gets, but who would be your get?
You know who I really want is I want to get Ryan Reynolds on. I think he's such a cool. I want to really I don't know. I want to know more about what drives him to do what he does when he's already achieved so much stardom and fame. I think he's such a cool example of like a celebrity / entrepreneur that's done a lot more than just, and by the way, I have incredible respect for actors. I think that's something I don't even understand, but like, that's a good example. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Have you reached out?
I have not yet. I'm waiting for that connect, cause this is the problem. At the end of the day, without even knowing Ryan Reynolds, there are 1,000 people always wanting a piece of anyone with success. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm not afraid to ask. One of my Shawnisms, again, in the book, you never know until you ask.
Right.
But how you ask can make a difference. So we'll get there when there's a good connection of some kind.
So if there's somebody in our community that happens to have a connection with Ryan Reynolds, just know that, well, he's not going to say yes to my show. Not quite yet. I'm not quite at the level yet, but I think that if you know Ryan and you know Shawn from listening to this episode, just go ahead and connect the two. I'll make sure I put a link to the agency that connected with me to get Shawn on the show. And let's see if I can help get you there. Not saying I can't have him on my show.
Slide into my DMs. I'm so easy to find. Shawn of LoveSac on Instagram. I DM with customers, employees, anyone all day long. I'm super happy to be connected with any of you. Thank you. All right,
give that one more time. I think I stepped on you as soon as you said that. So what's your Instagram?
Shawn of LoveSac is my Instagram, all over social media. Find me on YouTube, all these other places. I'm easy to find.
All right. Well, there you have it. That's exactly how you get to Shawn. If you have a connection with Ryan Reynolds, that would be the first, the true indicator of whether you have something of value to say to Shawn. So if not, hang on to your DM for just a little while. Let Shawn breathe and get through it. Shawn, so very much appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your message on the show today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. A lot of fun.
Hey, for all those in our community, if you want to get a copy of Shawn's book, Let Me Save You 25 Years, just click the link in the show notes and you'll get your copy. It is right at Amazon.com. You'll see there's a bunch of 5-star reviews for that. Easy book, easy read. You can read it in 60 minutes, unless, of course, you're like me. It'll take you 6 weeks, but that's fine. 60 minutes is all you need to read the book. Do it in the seams and cracks. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Fill up your week with the Nice Guys. The Nice Guys on Business are publishing 5 episodes a week. My master plan is working.